Kermit the Frog sang, "It ain't easy being green. Try. It ain't easy being a conjoined twin suck in circus-servitude," or "It ain't easy having no limbs." Being green's the least of their problems. Honestly, being beloved would have been a relief. In the early 1900s, entertainment was a different beast. There was no TV or Netflix. You needed a living spectacle, and circuses delivered. It was exploitative, often cruel, yet for some, the only shot at survival or profit. So before you ask, was being a circus freak really that bad? Step right up and judge for yourself. Here are 15 freaks of nature. Number 15, the Chappelle twins. Laurie and George lived a life like no one else. Born in 1961 in Pennsylvania, they were conjoined at the forehead, facing opposite directions, yet building entirely separate identities. Laurie worked in a hospital. George, born Dory and later transitioning, became a country musician. Though spina bifida left his legs unusable, George sat on a stool Laurie pulled behind her and still performed award-winning songs, appearing in Stuck on You and even on stage with the Farrelly brothers. They appeared on Maury, Howard Stern, and starred in an episode of Nip Tuck. For their first 24 years, they were locked away in a state facility, mislabeled as intellectually disabled, until they proved everyone wrong. From then on, they spoke for themselves, witty, capable, and fully independent. They lived until age 62, making them the oldest living conjoined twins ever recorded. Their story wasn't framed around tragedy. It was framed around resilience, defiance, and two people who lived every day without asking for permission. They're a legend. Number 14, the Kentucky Giant Fat Boy. Once a wise man said, "The bigger the body, the heavier the burden." For John Hanson Craig, that was reality. By age 2, he weighed 206 pounds, enough to win Barnum's Bonnie Baby contest. By adulthood, he topped 900 pounds. People called him the Kentucky Giant Fat Boy, but John wasn't just a headline. He ran his own shows, loved twice, and fathered a child. His first wife, Mary Jane, weighed almost 800 pounds. After her passing, he married Zella Ayres, who was a snake charmer with fire in her eyes. Together, they toured and raised a family. Sure, Craig was a sideshow attraction, but behind the curtain was a man who made people laugh, built a life, and kept moving forward even when his own body resisted him. He died at 39, outlived by the myth of his size, but remembered by those who saw past it. His life was short, loud, and full of love, heavy in every possible way, just like he was, and that's why I love him. Number 13, Joan Wisnant. Most of us take our hands for granted. Joan Wisnant never had that option, because she never had hands at all, just a quiet kind of defiance and 2 brilliant feet. While others saw absence, she turned it into ability. By childhood, her toes did what 10 fingers couldn't. He can cook, sew, brush hair, and even play guitar. Her parents refused to hand her over to the freak circuit, but Joan didn't hide. She played state fairs and Ripley's stages with her feet cradling a guitar like a seasoned musician's hands. Once, a boy laughed. She smiled and strummed louder. There was nothing pitiful about her. People came to gawk and were left speechless. Her melodies weren't just notes. They were a message. This is what grace looks like. Joan passed away in 1998, leaving behind no apologies, no bitterness, and no ordinary life. She didn't just adapt. She created beauty where the world expected limits, and people still remember the music. Number 12, Stella the Bearded Lady. Betty McGregor was born in 1902 in Battle Creek and spent her youth hiding a secret. She shaved up to 6 times a day to hide the whiskers that kept growing on her face. By her 30s, she stopped hiding and embraced the spotlight, adopting the name Stella the Bearded Lady. She joined Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey, then later Ward Hall's shows during World War II, becoming a fixture in America's last sideshow years. Unlike many, Betty started her adult life in respectable roles, a teacher, a nurse, but the exhaustion of constant shaving wore her down. On stage, she leaned in, turning self-consciousness into presence, drawing attention not with pity, but with curiosity. As the sideshow era faded in the 1970s, she quietly retired, living the rest of her life passing as a man and working as an accountant. Betty McGregor died in 1977, remembered not with fanfare, but as one of the last bearded ladies who chose her own ending. Number 11. Carl Norwood. Some performers had names in lights. Carl had nicknames he never asked for, Frog Boy among the cruelest. His body was twisted by a rare condition, his limbs shortened, his steps uneven. But Carl had a spine made of quiet steel. He worked the sideshows in his teens, teaming up with Dick Hilburn, the quarter man. Together they turned gawking into grit, taking the stage not for sympathy, but survival. Once Hilburn died, Carl kept going. Managed by Hilburn's widow, then later with Ward Hall's show, Carl toured until the spotlight dimmed. He didn't perform acrobatics or tricks. He just stood there and made you feel something. That's harder than it sounds. The tents weren't glamorous. The money was thin. But Carl showed up, day after day. When he died at 37 in Atlanta, it wasn't news. It was quiet. But ask anyone who saw him. He mattered. He was one of thousands who turned pain into performance. Forgotten, but never invisible. Number 10. The Man with Two Faces. Sam Alexander, called the Man with Two Faces, wasn't born with a deformity. In his 20s, while pursuing a theater career, an accident changed everything. Though details vary, most agree he lit a match near gasoline and suffered severe burns to the lower half of his face. Despite multiple surgeries, doctors couldn't repair the damage, estimating reconstruction could take up to 15 years. Sam withdrew from public life, struggling with the psychological weight of his appearance. Eventually, a young surgeon designed a lifelike facial mask, helping him re-enter society. Sam turned tragedy into performance. He joined top circus companies, including Ringling Bros, Barnum and Bailey, and Clyde Beatty Circus. His act involved telling his story, then removing the mask for the finale. Later, he founded his own sideshow troupe. Even after more operations, he chose to wear the mask. Sam died of natural causes in 1997. Despite everything, he was remembered not for his scars, but for the loyalty he inspired in others. Number 9. Alzoria Lewis and Johanna Dickens. On Coney Island's sideshow stages between the 1930s and 50s, two women shared the spotlight, billed as sisters, though they weren't related. Alzoria Lewis, born in Brooklyn in 1912, had underdeveloped limbs, 6 fingers on each hand, and mismatched toes, 6 on one foot, 1 on the other. She crawled onto the stage, going by names like the Turtle Girl, Walrus Girl, or Pig Woman. Her act spun a Southern tragedy, but truthfully, she grew up just blocks from the very stage she worked. Married twice, she sometimes used the name Alzoria Green. Alongside her was Johanna Dickens, a dwarf likely born in the 1920s, who performed as the Bear Girl. Together, they lived inside the tales the circus invented, fabricated family ties, fake backstories, and names tailored to shock. But what remains isn't the exaggerated banners or carnival fiction. It's the image of two women, labeled and displayed, yet still owning the space that once tried to define them. Number 8. Frida Pushnik. Most people write with their hands. Frida Pushnik wrote essays, did puzzles, and threaded needles without hands or legs. Just one small arm stump and a spirit that wouldn't quit. Doctors said she'd never manage. She managed everything. As a kid, she won school awards for penmanship. At age 10, she took her skills on stage at Ripley's during the Chicago World's Fair, carried out on a plush velvet pillow like a queen without a crown. But don't mistake that softness. Frida had fire. She was amazed, not because of pity, but precision. Crowds came to stare. They left clapping. Through the 30s and 40s, she toured with Ripley's, then joined Ringling Brothers in 43. Her sister Irma worked trapeze nearby. The family wasn't just in the circus, they were the circus. Frida eventually stepped out of the spotlight, but never out of people's memories. She died in 2000, having made a career out of grace, grit, and sheer willpower. Number 7. Laurette Fulkerson. Most of us hide our scars. Laurette Fulkerson turned hers into ink. Covered head to toe in tattoos, 90% of her body, she wasn't chasing shock value. She was the shock. Long before body art became cool, Laurette made it her identity, her business, her battle armor. She toured with Ringling Brothers, Hubert's Museum, and Hall and Christ, flashing intricate designs under a banner that simply read, "Tattooed Lady." There was nothing soft about her story, just grit and needles. Once, she was the main act. Later, just a relic of a fading age. But she kept going. Long after crowds stopped gasping, she stood in her skin like it was a crown. The last tattooed lady, they called her, and they meant it. She outlasted the sideshows, the gawkers, and even the freak labels. When she passed in 2007 at 92, she took with her the end of an era, inked in skin and defiance. Laurette didn't just wear tattoos. She was one. All right, now let's move to Number 6. Haji Ali. Some performers speak fire. Ali spat it. Then he swallowed water and put out his own flames. Most of us can't even hold our breath for a full minute. Haji chugged gallons, swallowed live goldfish, kerosene, and then turned his stomach into a stage prop. Born in Egypt, he became a global sensation, known simply as the human fountain. He wasn't a magician. No illusions, no tricks, just raw, unsettling control of his body. He'd spew water in rhythmic bursts, then regurgitate still-living goldfish into a tank. One moment, a human flamethrower. The next, a self-extinguishing machine. Scientists didn't know what to make of him. Spectators couldn't look away. He didn't speak much, didn't joke or dance. He just delivered a performance that sat somewhere between brilliant and bizarre. Some called it grotesque, others genius. But no one forgot it. Haji Ali didn't bend spoons or saw women in half. He redefined what a body could do. Number 5. The Elephant Girl. Once, someone asked Sylvia Portoris if she ever wished for normal legs. "It's God's will," she said calmly, "and there's nothing I can do about it." That was her line before every show. Simple, unshakable. Her right foot was huge, swollen by elephantiasis, her gait slow and heavy. But what she lacked in stride, she made up for in presence. Dubbed the Elephant Girl, she toured America's sideshows in the 1940s, where curious eyes looked for something to laugh at. Sylvia gave them dignity instead. She stood center stage and told her story before anyone could twist it for her. People came for shock. What they got was honesty. Some cried, some looked away, but no one forgot her. She never begged for sympathy. She owned the space, limp and all. Sylvia turned her burden into defiance and the stage into a mirror. She didn't walk fast, but she walked proudly and made others feel small just for judging her. Number 4. The smallest woman in the world. Pauline, aka Princess Pauline, stood just 58 centimeters tall and weighed under 4 kilograms. But the moment she stepped onto a stage in the 1890s, her presence took over the room. Born in the Netherlands in 1876, she moved with wit, grace, and a confidence that disarmed anyone expecting weakness. Pauline danced, sang, and spoke with charm that made her audience forget her size entirely. Vaudeville halls and circuses throughout Europe and America welcomed her, not as a novelty to pity, but as a performer who commanded attention. Even seasoned critics acknowledged she wasn't a trick. She was the real thing. Her fame soared, yet her time was brief. In 1895, while performing in New York, she died from pneumonia and meningitis at just 19. Her frame was small, but the impression she left was enormous. Pauline proved that talent, confidence, and presence have nothing to do with tiny stature. Number 3. The Sacred Hairy Family of Burma. Once a wise man said, "What sets you apart may one day define your legacy." For the hairy family of Burma, that truth grew thick. Covered in hair from forehead to feet, they were born with hypertrichosis, a condition passed through generations, starting with Shi Maung in 1796. Gifted to a king at age 5, he became both court jester and honored man. His daughter Mafun carried the same condition, and by the 1800s, the entire family was known across Burma as living legends. Then came the revolution. Palaces burned, and they disappeared into jungle shadows, until they emerged in England, then toured America with P.T. Barnum as the Sacred Hairy Family of Burma. Crowds came for the spectacle. What they met were kind, soft-spoken people with royal bearing. Then, just as suddenly as they'd arrived, they vanished. No death records, no final curtain. Just a mystery left behind, brushed in fur and folklore. Number 2. The Human Unicorn. Most of us get one odd feature: a crooked tooth, a birthmark, a rogue eyebrow. Wong had a horn, a real one. It jutted from his head like a jagged spiral, nearly 14 inches long, and made him myth before he ever uttered a word. He didn't ask for it. He didn't sell it. But someone took a photo, and the world ran with it. The early 1900s press called him the Human Unicorn, turning a quiet Chinese villager into a walking fable. Doctors called it a cutaneous horn. Papers called it a miracle. Some drew him draped in feathers, others in robes, casting him as either wizard or beast. Wong didn't tour, didn't join circuses. He never played the game. But his image outlived him, pinned to posters, circled in medical journals, stretched into legend. We don't know when he died. We barely know how he lived. But we still remember his face, and that weird horn. Number 1. Martin Lorello. This one's no trick. Martin Lorello, known as the Owl Man, could genuinely rotate his head 180 degrees, staring backward without moving his shoulders. It wasn't a gimmick. Years of practice combined with a rare spinal condition allowed him to dislocate his vertebrae without lasting damage. Unlike other contortionists who performed a range of acts, Lorello built his entire career on that one uncanny move. He became a fixture in sideshows and vaudeville circuits, captivating crowds with his unnerving talent. Doctors and audiences alike were baffled by how he could twist that far without injury. Lorello didn't reach the fame of top-tier circus stars, but his act, simple, eerie, and unforgettable, earned him a unique place in the freak show world. It was disturbing, yes, but real. He never needed props or exaggeration, just his spine and an unsettling stare. Martin Lorello remains one of the strangest and most memorable performers ever to step into the spotlight. If you've enjoyed watching this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll see you very soon.